In this unit, we're going to be talking about leadership in terms of leadership development and training for women in your women's ministry, and leadership styles and how we can work together with one another. Well, when we talk about leadership, first we want to consider what leadership really is. One definition of leadership is the ability to influence people toward a goal. It's also been said to be a dynamic process in which a man or woman with God-given capacity influences a specific group of God's people toward His purposes for the group. So what does a women's ministry leader look like? Well, one thing is that a women's ministry leader should be spiritually mature. She should be growing in her relationship with the Lord. She should have a call to minister to women. And she should have creativity and vision, having a desire to see God's purposes fulfilled for the women in her church. She should be an encouragement to others to build them up and help them as they discover then use their spiritual gifts. And then she should be a person of gratitude who has a thankful heart, who is looking for ways to be appreciative and encouraging rather than negative and wanting to tear others down. She should be a servant leader. She should be someone who is quick to take opportunities to serve others, and that she should have a little bit of organization. If that's not the strength of the leader, then certainly she would want to gather others around her who can be organized, because organizing for ministry does take a little bit of structure and ability to make plans and decisions. So it's important to have some organization. And then it's important to have a sense of humor, to be able to especially laugh at yourself and laugh when things don't go right, or the ability to be flexible. So it's important to have a sense of humor along with the leadership. Now, some questions you may want to ask yourself about leading, or someone who is potentially a leader in your ministry. Well, you want to ask, is this opportunity worthy of my time? Is this what God is calling me to do? Is this the best opportunity that He has for me right now? Because a lot of opportunities are good opportunities, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what God has for you, and that is the best opportunity for you at the moment. So is it worthy of your time? Then you have to ask yourself, what would have to be eliminated in my life for me to take on this leadership position? Because we all only have 24 hours in a day. We only have so much time, so we have to prioritize what is most important and what we're going to spend our time on. So what would have to be eliminated in order to add this to your schedule? And then you have to ask yourself, what would be the impact on my personal life? How would this change things? If you're in a especially busy season of life, you may need to really consider whether or not you would have the time to devote to taking on this leadership role. So with leadership, there's different styles of leaders. Some people tend to be more task-oriented, where you are focused and organized and ready to get the task completed, whatever it is. And then others are more relationally oriented, where they are focused more on people and meeting the needs of people. And so sometimes it's good in your ministry to have a balance of those personalities. You need those task-oriented people to help everyone stay on track and to actually get something done. When you're planning an event, you need someone who's task-oriented to make sure all of the details get taken care of. But you also need people who are relationally oriented to be able to have a sense of the needs of women in your ministry, and to have a pulse on what those women desire, what they need, what they are seeking in ministry, and to be able to recognize the climate, the emotional climate of the group. So it's important that we have both task-oriented and relationally oriented people on our teams. There's different styles of leadership in terms of how you manage things. There are autocratic leaders who are very authoritarian, and that is usually when you have a strong leader in place, and that person makes most of the decisions, and then everyone carries out those decisions. Then you have a democratic leader who is more interested in hearing the opinions of the group and wants to be sure that everyone's voice is heard, that everyone gets an equal voice. And then you have laissez-faire leaders who are typically tend to be more laid back and kind of let the group decide and to completely kind of take charge of the group. So those are kind of some extremes of different types of leadership styles. You will likely fall into multiple categories, or a little bit of some and not the other. But as I mentioned, those are kind of extremes in types of leadership. So what are some things to look for in a leader? As I mentioned before, it is really important for a leader in your ministry to be spiritually mature, to be growing in her relationship to God, and to be faithful and committed to the church and to the calling that God has given her, to be dependable, to know that this person will be trusted to handle the details of the ministry, to execute what has been decided upon, and to follow through with the commitments that she has made. She needs to be faithful. She also needs to be available and willing to serve wherever God needs her to serve, and to be open to that. And then it's important to be teachable. So every leader needs to continue to be teachable, to be lifelong learners, because we all are in process, we're all on a journey, and we're all learning. So it's important that we're all teachable, that we're all willing to receive instruction, and especially for those who are leading, because if you can't set the example of being teachable, then it'll be hard for other women to follow in that. And then it's important to be honest, to be a person who is trustworthy, to be someone who can be counted upon, and to be someone who can let their yes be yes and their no be no. Then you need to be a person who is able to keep a confidence, particularly in counseling with women. Women share a lot of information, and it is important to be able to keep those confidences and to be able to know when to speak and when to be silent. So those are some important things to consider as you're thinking about leaders in your women's ministry. And I just pray that as you seek out who God has called to be involved in your women's ministry, you will consider what the needs are and what some of the qualifications are for women to be leaders in the women's ministry.